All right. All right. Welcome to another episode of Dear Lost Mama. Today I have with me Krysten Mesner. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
That's right.
Yes. And she is here to share with us baby Grant's story. So thank you for joining us today on a Monday.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, so our viewers know?
Sure. So I'm from Western Maryland, and I live in Alexandria, Virginia. I've been in the DC metropolitan area since about 2006. I went to the University of Maryland, and then I got a job here afterwards and just stayed. So I'm about 20 minutes outside of Washington, DC.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm all the way in the south in Georgia, so...
It's nice in Georgia.
Yeah, it's nice here. So let's just, dive right in. Do you want to start with, the beginning of your pregnancy, how that went with Grant?
Sure. I have a son who is almost 5.5. His name is Alex. He was born in October 2017. And I had always wanted a second child. So in July of 2021, I found out I was expecting another child. And I felt so lucky to find out that I had a baby due on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
About maybe 10 or 12 weeks into it, I did the genetic testing, and everything looked normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this feeling all along that I was having a boy. And sure enough, the genetic testing revealed that I was having a boy.
Yeah.
And then I had my whole pregnancy was very, I would say, uneventful.
Mm-hmm.
I had some very slight morning sickness in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then about at 20 weeks, I had the anatomy scan.
Mm-hmm.
And everything looked normal, except he had a very, very mild case of pylectasis of the kidneys.
Oh, okay.
And basically the maternal fetal doctor at the hospital, it told me this is sometimes common in boys, nothing to be alarmed. My OBGYN, who is amazing, said the same thing. They said, we'll just continue to monitor this, and it will probably resolve on its own, either in utero or within his first year of life. And I would go in for scans. I don't know if it was because I was advanced maternal age, which is the nice way of saying geriatric pregnancy.
Oh.
Because my baby was going to be born he was due 3 weeks after I was turning 35.
Okay.
So I would go in for scans every 4 weeks, and they would monitor his kidneys. But again, it was nothing to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
They had expected it would resolve on its own. He wouldn't need surgery. Everything was going to be fine.
Good.
And it was improving every time. And even, even after he was born, I had another scan when he was a month old, and it was improving. Everything was fine. Then during my pregnancy, I had discussed with my OBGYN, how he was going to be delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, my older son, born in October 2017, he was born by C-section because my labor with him did not progress fast enough.
Okay.
And when I was going to have Grant, I was told that I could either have a scheduled C-section after 39 weeks, or I could do a VBAC, the vaginal birth after cesarean.
Right.
And I gave it some thought, and my OBGYN kind of advised me, it might just be easier, it might be safer and easier for you in terms of your own planning to schedule a C-section. Mm-hmm. So I ended up opting for that.
Okay.
And I scheduled a C-section for Monday, March 14th of 2022. which I was like super excited about
Yeah.
because
Was that
I
when
was
he was born? On the
yes,
actual day. Okay. That's so
yes.
funny because my son, he was born early at 23 weeks, but his due date was March 14th.
Pie
Yeah.
baby are good baby. Pie baby.
2022 the same time. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's funny. Okay, that's crazy.
Friday's a good day. So I was like so excited because I'm a statistician. So I was
Right.
like, I'm gonna have a Pi Day baby. Like
Yeah.
Pi Day has always been something I've celebrated, but now I can celebrate it for my own child.
Right. It makes that more
I'm,
special.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And so I was just like so tickled that he was like going to be born on Pi Day. Well, little did I know that in the afternoon on the afternoon of Sunday, March 13th of 2022,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to pick up my other son Alex from his dad's house in Maryland. So I was driving from Virginia to Maryland, and on the drive there, my water broke.
Oh my gosh.
And yes, and then as soon as I got my son, it's maybe 45-minute drive from my house.
Yeah.
As soon as I picked up my son, um, I called my doctor and I told the practice, and I told them what was happening, and they told me come on to the hospital.
Right.
So I was going to have a Pi Day baby no matter what. Even though I had scheduled for him to be born on Pi Day,
Right. Your water broke that day, anyways. That's awesome. That's crazy.
Was even though I had planned it, like I felt so happy that it was like his destiny to be born on that day. It was exciting. So
Yeah.
so I go to the hospital. My mom and I go to the hospital. He was born by C-section at 4:11 a.m. He weighed 7 pounds, 15 ounces, and he measured 20.5 inches in length. He was born at 39 or 39 and a half weeks. Like he was just perfect.
Perfect, healthy, everything was great.
He was just it was just perfect.
Yeah.
And he was beautiful, and he was just, I don't know how to put it in words.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I just from the moment that my eyes and my arms met him, I just like knew I would love him forever.
Right. Absolutely.
He was just so precious.
And everything about that scenario, the day, his birth, was perfect.
It was so perfect. And my whole pregnancy, I had told my son Alex, who was 4 at that time, that he would have a little brother named James. I had just told him this whole time, you're gonna have a brother named James, you're gonna have a brother named James.
Yeah.
When this baby was born, I was like, I just don't think I can name him James. That's what I was.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. And I just had this this isn't a family name. I just decided like I'm going to name this baby Grant.
Oh, interesting.
So
where'd that come from? Like you just felt it? Like you looked at him and knew that Grant, your name's gonna be Grant.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, Grant Mesner, that's a nice name. And I don't know, there was just something about that name that I was drawn to. And like in retrospect, I am so happy that I named him Grant because he truly was a gift.
Yeah. Is that what Grant means? It means a gift, or
it's a gift, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's all the more better.
I am happy I named him that. But anyway, so we get released from the hospital. He comes home. And I introduce him to Alex, and I'm like, Alex, look, this is your little brother. Yeah. And Alex is like, Mom, where's James?
He didn't get the memo that it had switched.
Yeah. And so Alex, like, I was a little bit worried about how Alex might adjust to being a big brother, because he has been the center of my world for, at that point, he was my center of my world for 4+ years.
Right.
And I was, bringing this new baby who would require a lot of attention to our home. But he he completely adjusted, and he
Yeah.
was so proud to be a big brother and to be my big helper.
Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah, he was very, very sweet and kind with the baby. He loved to play with him. And so I just felt like our lives had just come together.
Right. Everything was falling into place, going perfectly. I
Everything
love
was,
that. Yeah.
and Grant was a very easy baby. He loved to eat, he loved to sleep, to smile, and to be held, especially by me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate enough to have had him home with me for all the time that we had with him, which sadly was only 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and him being home with me worked very well for him because he was just very attached to me. Um, and he was just so easy and in every way. He would come along with me everywhere I went, whether it was Alex's t-ball games or soccer practices
Yeah.
or to the neighborhood swim club or even to Nat's baseball games. I mean, he was always in my arms or strapped to me in the carrier
Yeah.
or being pushed in the stroller. I mean, he was just always with me. And the other thing about Grant was that everywhere I took him,
Mm-hmm.
people would stop me and they would comment on how adorable he was and how happy and smiley and easy
Yes.
he
Those
was.
pictures you sent me were so precious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. What was
And
your
so,
favorite feature or favorite, like his smile, would you say?
um, well, everybody used to say that he had the same lips as mine,
Yeah.
so I think that would probably be my favorite just because it was like a part of me. And when people started to say that, I would just kind of really look at him and I think, yeah, he does have my lips.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a second time parent, it was like new for me that
Mm-hmm.
for strangers to stop me and tell me like um, how cute or how easy my kid was, because
Mm-hmm.
even though I thought Alex was very cute and very easy,
Oh
people
yeah.
people didn't stop me and go out of their way. I mean, I would be I would be out running errands and I might be in a parking lot and people would stop their cars to put down their windows or to tell me these things. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there was just something that was so special
Special
about
about him. And everyone saw it
this.
too. Yeah.
Everybody saw it. I mean, he just had a very special aura about.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I get emotional.
No, you're fine. I mean, it for you, it just happened for you, and we're talking about your baby here, so I
It
completely
did.
understand.
And my older brother, who's like never even really wanted kids, he used to always bother me and like beg me, "Can I adopt him? Can I?" He was just that perfect and that
Yeah.
lovable. He had this beautiful and captivating smile that would just light up a whole room. His giggles were adorable
Mm-hmm.
and contagious. He was always happy and he knew that he was loved by everybody who had the pleasure of knowing him. And he had really long toes,
I love that.
like strangely long, which I don't have those, which I'm okay with because that might be a little weird. And he had very long legs, which I felt like was so fitting, because his initials were GAM. And
Oh.
back in the 1920s, they used to call long legs
Oh
GAMs.
wow, I didn't know
So
that.
I just thought that was so funny. Um, and on Saturday, August 6th, Alex, Grant, and I picked up my older brother from the airport because he was coming to DC
Mm-hmm.
for a statistics conference for the week. And we spent a beautiful afternoon in DC at the wharf. And then, we dropped off my older brother at his hotel. And then a few days later, my mom came into town on Tuesday because she wanted to see my older brother because he lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Right.
And so she came to spend time with my older brother and my sons and with me. And then on Wednesday, my older brother came to my house to spend time with my mom and my sons and me. And I just I remember my older brother, he was holding baby Grant and he was running around my kitchen island and he was chasing Alex. Grant used to drool a lot. He was holding Grant. He was chasing Alex because Alex is very active, and he was chasing him around the kitchen. And he was saying that Grant was the drool gun. And Alex was like, I don't want to get the drool gun. And they were just chasing him around. And I mean, they were just having a blast.
Yeah.
And the next day on Thursday, my mother and I took my sons to an appointment with the passport office because Alex's passport was going to be expiring in 6 months. So I had to apply for a renewal for his passport. And I figured, well, at the same time, I'm going to apply for Grant's passport because we were planning on going to a wedding in Mexico in the end of September. So I wanted to get that taken care of, and I also just wanted him to have a passport. So we went and applied for the passport renewal and the actual passport. And then afterwards, we took Alex to get ice cream as a treat. We went back to my house that afternoon. Grant napped. We played. He ate some pureed sweet potatoes. My mom and I gave him a bath. I mean, this was just a normal day. Except my mom was here, which, she was a visitor, but, it was like a pretty normal day.
Right.
And then my mom and Alex went to sleep that Thursday night, probably a little after 8 p.m. And I stayed up with Grant until like around midnight. And I put him down to sleep around 12:05. So I guess technically that would have been Friday morning. The next morning, so on Friday, August 12th, I woke up around 6:35 a.m. I went downstairs to get some water, and I came back upstairs less than 5 minutes later. And just out of habit, I checked on Grant. I mean, he was a great sleeper from the time he was a couple months old. He was like sleeping through the night, but I just always checked on him because I wanted to make sure everything was okay.
Right.
Just out of habit. So I didn't, he would typically have slept until 8 or 8:30. So at 6:40 a.m. or so, I didn't have any concerns about him. On him. And when I checked on him, I could tell that he was not breathing. And so I first touched him and he was just stiff. And then, and he didn't move when I touched him. So then I picked him up and I thought to myself, as soon as I pick him up, he's going to wiggle or shake or something. And he was completely stiff and he did not move. And, and he was cold to the touch. And my mom was in the guest bedroom and I had screamed to her, Mom, I think Grant's dead. And she was, I guess, sound asleep and she woke up immediately.
Right.
She runs to my room and she I hand him to her and she feels his cheeks and she just, I didn't even think to do this, but she says, call 911. I guess in the shock of the moment, it just never dawned on me.
Right. I mean,
everything happened so fast. It just didn't even occur to me. So I called 911. I tell the operator what was going on. I tell them what my address is. she tells me to start giving him CPR. So I put him on his play mat on the living room floor and I start administering CPR to him. And I'm just thinking to myself, he's gone. Like, that's what I'm thinking as I'm doing it. And as I'm giving CPR to him, Alex comes down the stairs.
Oh.
And he said, what's going on?
Yeah.
And thank goodness my mom was there, because she was able to just kind of take him down immediately to the basement so that he didn't have to see or hear any of what was happening.
Right.
And thankfully the emergency stations, like the police and the fire station, in the hospital, they're all less than 5 minutes from my house. So within just a few minutes, emergency personnel had arrived, and very quickly they whisked Grant away. And I was in a robe, so I just was like, I need to change my clothes, but I want to come along. But they had, of course, taken him away in the ambulance. And then I just throw on some clothes very quick. I grab my cell phone, my wallet, and my keys, and I'm out the door.
Yeah.
And then one of the paramedics from the station in another vehicle, he had said he would drive me. And when I got in the vehicle, you know how like police and emergency personnel have these laptops in the front of their vehicles. So I look at the laptop and I just read the words infant cardiac arrest. And that was very hard for me to read. Even though I had seen what I saw, which is worse than reading any words.
It's almost like confirmation, and it's like, making it more real.
Like something really bad has happened.
Yeah.
So I said to the gentleman, could you, like, is there any chance that my son is going to be okay? And he said, I don't know. And then I said, could you just please give me an idea of what I should prepare for? And he said, it's not looking good. So I kind of had an idea of what things might look like for Grant. And so on the ride there to the hospital, which is less than 5 minutes away, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like praying for Grant's life and hoping that, there will be some kind of a miracle outcome here.
Right.
But I'm also thinking to myself, if they are able to resuscitate him, because I have felt how cold he was, I thought, what is this child's life going to look like? What kind of decisions might I have to make for this child? So I'm thinking these things as we're driving there. And as soon as we get to the hospital, the guy lets me off at the emergency department. I get out and I could see that there was a room where there was a lot of commotion. There were a lot of people, and I knew that was wherever he was.
Right.
But I get there, they want to know his name and his birth date. And so I provided that information to the receptionist of the desk. And I told them, he'll be in your system because he was born at an Inova hospital. So then I just when I'm there, I think, oh, let me call my brother because he's close by right now.
Right.
I mean, we're in Alexandria, but he's in DC. He's like 20 something minutes away. Let me just call him. So it's not even 7 a.m. and I call him and he does not answer the phone. So then I call him immediately again, and I could tell when he answered the phone, he was sound asleep, and he's like, what is going on, Krysten? And I told him, I said, I'm at the hospital with Grant and I think he's dead. And of course my brother is in shock because he had just seen him the day before and he
Mm-hmm.
was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So I just told him, I found him, he wasn't breathing, and they're doing CPR on him, but I did CPR on him, and I don't think that, I don't know if they're going to be able to bring him back to life.
Yeah.
And my brother says, okay, well, I'm going to pack up my things and get in an Uber and I'll head over to the hospital. So I said, okay. And, he said, just stay on the phone with me. So then the doctor calls me into the room where Grant was,
Mm-hmm.
and he asked me to take a seat. And he says to me, he says, I am so sorry. I'm a parent too. And I can't, I know, I can imagine how hard this is. He's like, but I don't think that we can bring him back. We've been working on him, and I think that we should stop CPR right now, but I'm willing to do it for another 2 minutes if that's what you want. And I said, yes, please, please, like, please just try.
Yeah.
And so, of course they tried, and he could not come back. And then they declared him dead. And you know, I just felt like I was in complete shock. I
Right.
mean, just hours earlier, we were together, he was normal, everything was fine. And then just like that, he
Mm-hmm.
was just gone. And um I I went and I stood next to him, and I wanted to, like, just instinctively pick him up and hold him because that was my baby.
Right.
Um, but they told me, I guess because of the nature of the fact that he had died, he was like a perfectly healthy baby who had
Mm-hmm.
died very suddenly and unexpectedly. They told me that I was not allowed to hold him because there was an investigation. Like,
Oh.
because he died, they were opening up an investigation. So whew, that was very hard.
Right.
I
Could
just
could you touch him and like
I wasn't allowed to touch him at all.
oh my God.
No, which I just seeing him there in the hospital bed, my beloved baby who
Yeah.
was now lifeless, and it was really hard.
Right.
And I stood over him, and then they escorted me to a room so I could wait for my brother to arrive. And so they escorted me to this room, and while I waited for my brother to arrive, um, I called my mom to tell her, the news, but there were investigators at my house, and they had already told her, the news, so she knew.
They came out that same day. All the investigators.
They did come out the day, but
Wow.
there were emergency personnel here.
Right. Okay.
It had happened here, so they were already here, I guess, for various reasons.
Okay.
Um, so then I called all my best friends to tell them what had happened. And then my brother came, and we had maybe 10 or so minutes together. And then two investigators showed up, and they spent maybe 3 or 4 hours asking me questions.
Okay.
Which, I I guess I understand why they do it, because you know, like, my son's life mattered, and they
Right.
need to figure out what happened to him. And for cases like this, it is really important to get the information while people actually remember it.
Right.
While they can recall it, because sometimes it can be hard to recall information after trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked a lot of questions, and they were very kind and compassionate with me. And I just told them everything that that I told them all about, my health history, Grant's health history. They wanted to know like what the days leading up to this, to his death, what they were like, about me finding him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told them everything. And then after that, um, they they had told me that they were taking him to Manassas, Virginia, to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. That they were basically, when they were done my questioning, they were getting ready for him to get picked up to take there. And I had said, well, can I go sit with him until they pick him up?
Mm-hmm.
And I go sit with him. And of course, I guess they had to go ask somebody if that would be okay because there was an investigation. So then they asked, and we got the approval, and we went and sat with him. And um, I I feel terrible about putting my brother through that trauma, because even though he wasn't there when Grant died, I mean he got wrapped into this trauma too. And seeing his beloved nephew lifeless on a hospital bed and not looking like himself, it was
Mm-hmm.
just it's just so hard. And
Right.
so we were there with him until maybe, I don't know, it was 45 minutes or an hour. And then then they came and they picked him up, the medical examiner's office, and they took him. And the detective drove my brother and I back to my house. And then I knew that the detective and the medical examiner and Child and Protective Services they had told me they were going to come to my house to all interview me and ask me questions. So yeah, that happened. My brother was kind enough to take Alex to the park, so he didn't have to be around any of that.
Right.
And they the detective, the medical examiner, and CPS had my mom and I reenact with a baby doll.
Oh my goodness.
The whole thing that happened, from finding Grant to, moving throughout the house, and how he was. And I understand why they do it, because they want to make sure that stories match up,
Right.
but it's hard.
Yeah. It's like
It,
you're reliving, you know.
yes, absolutely. And then after they did that, and of course they recorded us, why we did that. And then after that, I think the detective and the medical examiner asked me a few more questions, and then they left. And then CPS, they asked me and my mom, since we were here when it happened, they asked us a bunch of questions. And um, you know, I don't know. It was very hard. A hard
Yeah.
part. I would say that, um, of course, nothing compares to the loss of a child. Like, yes, it was not a, it was not, it was not great being like interviewed by police and by
Right.
CPS, but at the same time, none of that compares to like how terrible it was to lose a child. That was the worst part of all of it.
Right.
Um, and there are bad parents out there and bad caretakers that do bad things to children.
Mm-hmm.
They need to, like, every child's life matters, and they need to figure out exactly what happened, especially these, for babies, they don't have voices.
Right.
And so it is so important that they figure out exactly what has happened
Mm-hmm.
in situations like this, because it is very rare that a child dies so suddenly and unexpectedly. But now that we have now that the medical examiner has released their report, and they have ruled out things like abuse and
Mm-hmm.
negligence, or neglect, then I don't have any of these, like, my investigations are closed. These cases are closed. But I don't know. And even just receiving his autopsy. So he died August the 12th of 2022, and I did not receive his autopsy until the middle of February. So
Oh,
six
wow.
months. 6 months. I never received a call from the Virginia Medical Examiner's office. Nothing. I just got a report in the mail one day, and it said that it was a long report, and I I knew I still haven't looked through it at all. I
Mm-hmm.
have not opened it at all. It's just the day that I received a letter from the Virginia Medical Examiner's office in February, and it was kind of I knew that there were a lot of pages in there,
Right.
and so immediately I called my friend Erin, who has really been a rock for me through all of this. Like, she
Yeah.
knew Grant, and like she helped me to plan his funeral, and she's been like wonderful. I told her I had received this report, and she said, I can come over and read through it if you want. And I kind of told her, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. And she said, well, Krysten, you've agonized over this for 6+ months.
Plus.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's just, you need some finality. You need to know what happened to him.
Right.
And so she came over and she looked through it, and the manner of his death is undetermined, and the pathological diagnosis is sudden, unexpected death in infancy. So he died of SIDS. And I don't know. It's just finding out that is the determination. Um, I guess I have some mixed feelings about it, I
Of
guess.
course.
In a way, I feel like, this was not an accident.
Mm-hmm.
This was not something I overlooked.
Right.
He wasn't sick, and it's not something I missed. It
Like a
was,
guilt thing. I'm sure you carried a lot of guilt not knowing, what happened.
yes. And then, on the other hand, I am, um, I'm angry that this happened. Like,
Yeah.
how can, when I think about SIDS, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, um, you know, healthy babies. Just in my mind, this is me not knowing what I know now,
Right.
which I wish I didn't know now.
Right.
Um, I think, okay, maybe otherwise healthy babies could die from things like malnourishment,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe if a house was too hot and they overheated,
Right.
or maybe they didn't have great medical care or treatment. And I think, like, my son had everything.
Yeah.
Son had one of Washingtonian's best pediatricians. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was seen by one of the best providers. He was so loved. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he was well nourished. He had everything. And it's just unfathomable how he was perfectly fine
Right.
one day, and the next day he was gone.
Right.
And I I have never in my entire, now my life is different. Now
Mm-hmm.
I know people who have lost babies to SIDS, because I'm part of a lot of different support groups,
Mm-hmm.
and so I know people who share this experience.
Right.
But before this happened, I had never known anyone who had lost a baby to SIDS. And, I know people who have had miscarriages. I
Mm-hmm.
know people who have um, lost babies to stillbirths,
Mm-hmm.
or people who have had babies in the NICU and then they passed away. But I have never known anybody who has had a child die of SIDS. And I have even asked people like my friends, have you ever known anyone that this has happened to? And everybody always says no.
Right. Like
Um,
you said,
it's
it's not a common thing, right?
it's so rare.
Yeah.
It's so rare. And I'm still in shock that this has happened,
Mm-hmm.
and also that this is now my life, and this is like Alex's life. That yeah,
Yeah.
it's it is not how I had imagined things being.
Of course not. I don't think anyone really goes into, any, motherhood, preparing yourself for your child to pass. Um,
Mm,
it's like so cliche to say, but it's everyone's worst nightmare.
it
Um,
is.
how has Alex been? Has he asked about his brother?
Yeah, he asked about him a lot. So uh he did come to the funeral, and he saw his baby brother Grant, and I think it took a little while for it to sink in that he would not be returning.
Yeah.
We went to just because we had already had the schedule, we went to Disney World. I guess it was maybe it was 3 weeks after Grant passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Alex said to me, "Mom, is Grant going to be there?" And I said, "No, he's
Oh.
not going to be there." And, he does ask about him
Yeah.
a lot. And he tells me sometimes, he says, "Mom, I miss Grant. He was so cute."
Yeah.
And yeah, Alex definitely, he remembers him. And I also, it's really important for me to keep his memory alive for Alex,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because that was his brother. And
Mm-hmm.
so on March 14th, this year, 2023,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been Grant's first birthday.
Right.
And I didn't want to let the day pass us by. So I didn't send out, and I had planned this out and told his teachers at least a week in advance.
Right.
I had decided I'm not sending him to school that day.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex didn't go to school on Tuesday, March 14th. Instead, we made it Grant's Day.
I love that.
Yeah, and I took Alex to the aquarium in Baltimore, which is like maybe 45 minutes or an hour away. I
Yeah.
took him to the aquarium in Baltimore. He's like really into sharks and marine life. And so I took him there, and then we went to the Cheesecake Factory
Mm-hmm.
for dinner, and Alex had a little, I don't know, some kind of dessert. And our server's name was Grant, which I never meet anyone named Grant. So I felt like,
Really?
yes,
Did
I
you feel
almost,
like that was a sign from your baby?
yes. And I don't get a lot of signs, but I did.
Yeah.
I did feel the way. And then I kind of felt bad because I kind of got emotional when he had introduced himself.
Oh.
But then he was very kind and caring. I'm sure he wasn't expecting to go to work that day and then have somebody say, "Hey, this is my dead baby's name you have."
Oh my gosh.
He was very nice about it.
Good, good.
Yeah, and then on Saturday, March 18th,
Okay.
if Grant had been alive, in my mind, and
Mm-hmm.
and I told a couple of my friends this, that so when Grant was living, I had said to them, "Okay, I'm gonna have Grant's birthday party on this day," because I'm a planner like that.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Grant's birthday party on this day, and since he was due on St. Patrick's Day, the birthday party theme is gonna be Lucky One,
Oh,
and
that's so
um
cute.
and for desserts we're gonna have pie. So like I had this all planned out. And
Yes.
so I had thought, if I don't do something for this day and for his birthday, and
Mm-hmm.
I let this pass by, I'm going to just feel down in the dumps.
Right.
So I decided I was going to have a big, I don't know if you want to use the word party, but I was going to have a big event.
Right.
And
Celebrate.
yeah. And because I want to celebrate Grant's life, like I always want to celebrate his life
Of
because
course.
it's worth celebrating. So I had this event at my house. I decided since it was a Saturday and kids have sports and people have things going on and
Mm-hmm.
people are all over, I had like open house style event so anyone could drop in from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I and I also rented a bounce house for our backyard so all the kids that were coming would have fun.
Right.
And Alex was really excited about that. And because I wanted it to be family friendly so people could bring their kids. I
Yeah.
didn't want it to be like a sad event, even though
Right.
yes, it's terribly sad that
Mm-hmm.
Grant was not here with us in a physical sense, but um, we're still gonna celebrate his life. I
Right.
had
You can still remember
I
him and
yes,
mm-hmm.
yes. And I wanted it to be a very happy day for Alex.
Yeah.
And so Alex always likes to have piñatas at his birthday. He's super into that.
Yeah.
And so I decided to also get a piñata, which I felt a little bit, I have mixed feelings about it because I feel like piñatas are usually like super, super happy type
Mm-hmm.
events. But I thought, you know what, whatever, I'm getting a piñata anyway. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird, but I don't care what anyone has to say about this.
Right.
So I ended up, and when I went to pick out the piñatas with my friend Aaron, who came with me, I mean, I just decided to get a rainbow piñata because rainbows are a sign of hope,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like we need some hope over
Could use a
here.
little bit of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So
Yeah.
we got a rainbow piñata, which Alex was so happy about. He loves to stuff them, so he was all about that. And then I had a bunch of different pies of every kind because for my pie day baby, and
Mm-hmm.
they're nice. I think I had maybe throughout the day, maybe I had like 75 people at my
Oh my
house.
gosh.
So it was kind of a big
Yeah.
event. And I also used the event as a way to raise funds for a program called the Roberts Program.
Okay.
And so about, let me think, about 3 or so weeks after Grant had passed away, I was attending a local, virtual but local
Mm-hmm.
support group for infant loss.
Okay.
I had shared my story, and one lady had contacted me during the meeting saying that my story was very similar to hers. And
Mm.
she lives in Northern Virginia too. And she had asked me, "Have you ever heard of the Roberts program?" And I told her, "No, I've never heard of that. What is that?" And
Right.
then she told me, "It is a program at Boston Children's Hospital, um, and they have some medical experts from Harvard Medical School. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a collaborative effort,
Wow.
and they study sudden, unexpected death in infants and children, so in pediatrics.
Okay.
Um, Basically, they get the samples from the state medical examiner's office,
Mm-hmm.
and they do a very comprehensive investigation into like what could have happened.
Okay.
And sometimes they're able to get more answers than what the medical examiner's office does,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they don't come up with any kind of a cause or a reason, but in the very least they take whatever data they collect and they put it in a database. And over time, I'm hopeful that they will have enough information
Mm-hmm.
to maybe have some idea about why SIDS happens.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
because I think not having an answer is torture.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. It is. And And so, yeah, I used the event to. So Grant is a study participant at in the Roberts program
Okay.
in Children's Hospital, and I guess maybe sometime at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, I'll have they will have their evaluation of his case complete, and in the fall for infant loss awareness and
Mm-hmm.
for Giving Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
I had a fundraiser, and like thanks to some very generous friends, I raised I think almost
Oh my
$5,300 in
gosh.
memory, which this is and then
That's
for his
great.
birthday I raised over 2,000. So I think in total I've raised over maybe $7,500 for this program.
Yeah,
This is not the purpose that I would have wanted for his life,
of
but
course.
I feel like, you know, even though he's not here, his life still will continue to have some purpose, and that he'll
Mm-hmm.
have some kind of a legacy because I want to keep his memory alive. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know
Yeah,
what? I'm sure
absolutely. I
you
think
want to
what we
keep
get,
Noah's memory alive too.
yeah, I think as moms, what we um fear is like our babies being forgotten, especially, when you have a child pass away at such an early age. Um, to other people, it's just a story, but for us, it's our life. And so it's something that they can easily like, oh, that's a sad story, but they get to continue on. And like for us, it's like, well, I don't want you to forget.
Life stops, like for
Mm-hmm.
us,
Yeah,
like when life continues moving on for other people, for us, it almost stands still in time.
it does. Yeah. And it's hard to, at least for me, I'm feeling like it's hard finding that purpose again. Without Noah. Um has parenting, your son without Grant, has that changed at all? Has it been hard, like difficult for you?
Um, I think that there are times when I feel like things are challenging for me.
Yeah.
Just even a great example is yesterday. Yesterday was Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Alex was with his dad until 5 o'clock, and um, the old me would have probably had his Easter basket together days in advance and so excited to give it to him and take pictures of him with it. But um, I have things for his Easter basket, and I have his Easter basket.
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday, I just kind of decided to myself, I'm not celebrating Easter today. I made an appointment to do my taxes
Yeah.
7 weeks ago. So I was like, well, today's just gonna be an administrative day for me. And that's what I did. And I thought to myself, I'll at least have Alex's Easter basket together when he gets home from his dad's, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I haven't done it today, even. So Alex is going to have his Easter here maybe sometime this week. I
Right.
mean, I couldn't do it, and
Yeah.
and
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 holidays, I think especially, are so hard.
they're
um
hard. They're
Yeah,
hard.
I know when Easter yesterday, I was just on social media and I just saw people with their families and all their children, and just it hits different,
Yes.
And I think what I'm learning, and I think you are as well, is that it's okay to, take a step back. Like we're grieving, and we have to
Yes.
give ourselves the grace to, take it day by day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Definitely. And then sometimes I notice myself like maybe maybe I worry about Alex more than I would have in the past because just because I had a perfectly healthy child
Yeah.
that just so I worry a little bit more, but and then also maybe I've always like focused a lot on Alex, but like maybe I am trying to also savor a lot of the moments that he has. Maybe I'm trying to take more pictures
Yeah.
do think that this loss has impacted my parenting, and
Mm-hmm.
try to, in times when Alex was rambunctious and I might get frustrated with him, I try to just think to myself, okay, he is annoying me. You know what? Thank goodness he's still alive.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
terrible that I'm thinking this way. And then, I also
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself that like, thank goodness I have Alex, because for people who experience the loss of their first child, I feel like that loss of any child is hard, but I feel
Right.
like that has to be especially hard because, I can distract myself with Alex to some degree, but
Right.
people who don't have another child to distract themselves with, that has to be very hard, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It has.
Absolutely. And I feel like, I don't want you to diminish your pain because, like you said, every loss is sad and every experience is unique and different and no one can really compare it. But I don't think, like, for example, Noah was my first son, my firstborn, my first child ever. And, I lost him. I don't think that that experience and your experience, our pain is any lesser than one or the other. We both feel pain. We both are grieving our child. Um, so I think we get caught up too in a way sometimes comparing.
Mhm.
Sometimes I feel like there's just no comparison. Everyone's unique. Everyone's story is just different, and their experience is unique. And it's just, yeah, it's just an unfortunate, sad thing that we're all here for the reason of not having a child with us anymore, and that's just the worst club to ever be in.
It's the worst club. It's like from the moment you find out you're pregnant, you just imagine what your life is going to look like with this baby, and
Mm-hmm.
going to love them, and that they're going to outlive you. Like,
Yeah.
there's about that.
Mm-hmm.
When life throws you the worst curveball in the world and you have to readjust, it's a hard thing to readjust to. And
Absolutely.
I don't know if you feel this way, but even just like being out in the world and
Mm-hmm.
today life and
Mm-hmm.
interacting with people, um I find comfort in like being in my neighborhood and my community where everybody knows and people are supportive, and like
Yeah.
amongst my friends who know, because I don't know, sometimes I don't know, it's just a comfortable place to be.
Yeah.
People know your story and can be supportive of you, because it's just it's this is a big thing to
It's
carry.
heavy. Yeah. And I can relate to that too, because I know, like, I'm a teacher, so I switched schools recently this year, so not a lot of people know me and know, like, if you were to look at me and meet me, like, you would have never known, like, that I had a kid unless you asked. And part of me wants to, like, just say, like, hey, I have a son, like, his name's Noah, and I don't have a physical child to, like, show and to, like, prove, like, I'm a mom, but I want to, like, put it out there so people know. And, like you said, I guess I don't know if it's me wanting to have that support and that community, like you said, but I think it helps with not feeling so alone. And like you said, it's heavy carrying that weight by yourself and not being able to, have that support from people around you. Because this is something that can turn dark really fast if you don't have someone to talk to, or if you're not, having the support that could really help in this dark time.
Yes, yes. And I guess, do your when you say that you want to tell people, do your colleagues know?
Yeah, so when I got the job, the way it worked for me was I had taken off school. I wasn't going to go back to teaching. Noah had passed away in May of 2022. So I wasn't going to return in the fall. But when he passed away, summer went by and I was like, well, I gotta go back to work now. Like, I can't just sit at home and sulk in my sadness. So when I went back in August, it was 2 months after he had passed away. It was still really fresh for me. I told my grade level and my boss, and I didn't really tell anyone else. But social media, you know, they find you, they add you. If you go to my page, I'm not afraid to talk about Noah. I'm not afraid to post about him. So they see it, but I don't know. I find that tricky because I won't just say it out loud. I kind of want to be asked about him, you know, but then I know, you know, we can't expect people to know, you know, what to do or how to act or what to say. And that's where it gets tricky. Because it is an uncomfortable topic. Like you said, we live in a world where parents, you're supposed to go before their children. Like, children are supposed to outlive their parents. And when a child passes away, like, it's taboo. It's not normal. It's not the life order. And so people can be really uncomfortable by the topic. And I feel like that's just, it's iffy. It's touchy, you know, when you meet someone and you talk about something like that, because you're not sure how they're going to perceive it or perceive you. But yeah.
Yeah, it's and what grade level are you teaching?
Kindergarten.
Oh my goodness.
Girl, I know. My therapist was like, "Are you sure?" Yeah. I mean, it was that, or I needed to work, and it's hard, you know. And I feel like I'm sure you know, going and carrying your daily routines. It's just
it is hard. Like I feel like maybe you feel this way too. Where there are certain things that I can anticipate are going to be, like, you know, if I'm having a gathering at my house and a friend has a baby that's coming to, okay, I can kind of anticipate.
Prep yourself. Yeah.
Everything I do, I feel like requires like mental preparation.
Oh,
do you
yeah.
feel like
Yeah, absolutely. Even there's times where, because we have a lot of friends who had babies around the same age as Noah, and they're like all within a few months apart. I find it really hard to like go to events where they're at, just because like I'm looking at a child that my son should be their age.
Yes.
You know,
And you can give yourself the grace not to go if you don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of learned that several people I know have had first birthday parties for kids lately, and they didn't invite me. And at first, like for the first 5 seconds, my feelings were a little bit hurt, but then I was like,
can see that.
Thank goodness they didn't invite me, because I maybe in a year or so I'll feel different. Right now it's too
it's
too
fresh.
much.
Yeah.
You're not ready. And you know, when these kids are going to preschool or kindergarten in a few years, and I on social media and I see their pictures, I'm gonna think, wow, like my kid should be taking a picture, should be getting him ready to go to preschool or kindergarten, and that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, it hurts. I think I read something the other day. Maybe I posted it today. Someone said that like it's like watching your dreams play out in other people's lives, and watching what should have been, what could have been, and then having that taken away from you. I used to feel so bad about canceling, and like I want to say I'm getting better, but I had a really bad habit of like caring about what other people think about me, like what people perceive me as. And grieving, and with all this happening, I feel like it's just so messy. And 1 minute I'm okay, the next minute I'm like a mess, you know, crying on the floor just uncontrollably. And like I feel like that's how I am too socially. Like sometimes I have the energy to hang out with a friend, and sometimes my battery is just low. I have no capacity for any more feeling. Like I'm just numb to it. And I feel like you meet those friends, like I've heard you say, that are very supportive and that can understand and sit with you in the grief and not take it to heart if you cancel on them, or if you say like, hey, not feeling it today, I'm having one of those moments, and they just understand you. I unfortunately have like maybe two friends like that, two, three, and you know, not everyone gets it. And I think you said this earlier, like it's unfortunately not a lot of people will really understand unless they've been through this. And of course, we wouldn't want anyone to go through this. Um, but it's something that I feel like, you know, in the lost community, we understand a little bit more because we, you know, we can relate in that sense.
Yes, yes. And it's like when I meet other lost parents, I don't know, the bond is almost instant or immediate
Oh yeah.
because just feel we all have this terrible thing in common that none of us want to have in common with each
Mm-hmm.
other. I don't know. I feel for me it has helped so much to have people to talk to,
Oh yeah.
relate to, and I do I mean I do it. I'm trying to do everything I can that's good for my healing and journey. I
Mm-hmm.
an amazing therapist who I think the world of and who I was able to click with almost immediately, and
That's
she's been
great.
great support for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I attend a DC, a virtual DC area miscarriage and infant loss support group. I attend another like a Virginia based
Mm-hmm.
virtual infant loss and support group. Um, I attended a weekend retreat for bereaved parents. It's called,
Wow.
yes, this was in November. It's called While We're Waiting, and
Okay.
it's a Christian ministry, and they have retreats all over the country. And when I went, I guess there were maybe eight or so other families, and we spent the weekend telling stories, telling the story of our children,
Yeah.
and and it was very therapeutic, but it was also very heavy. So
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
when I went to that retreat, I came home and I felt pretty terrible for about 6 days because not only, and this was only maybe 2.5, this was 12 weeks after my loss. So it was kind of soon.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I just like I was just going through my own loss, but now I have met these people
Mm-hmm.
who are amazing and bonded with them and heard terrible things that happened in their lives.
Right.
And I just felt like, how can such bad things happen to such good people?
Yeah.
That was just my feeling on that. And I
Mm-hmm.
made friends from there and I still keep in contact with them. And then I have met people through Facebook who are part of like SIDS awareness groups.
Mm-hmm.
I met a lady who's so kind, who lives in Indiana, and her son died 3 weeks after mine. So we have
Oh
been
wow.
walking this journey.
Together almost, right?
Our sons are both 5 months old, so we're just 3 weeks apart in this journey, and we both have sons that are a few years older than our sons who passed. And so I have her, and I have another friend in Georgia, and her son passed away a little more than 2 months
I
after
think
my
was this the one you connected me with?
you
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
guys
Yes.
can meet up. So I made friends with her, and then I've made friends with other people, and then I'm a part of like other bereaved parent support groups.
Wow, you're doing a lot.
I do like grief share.
Yeah.
I have a friend, a very, very close friend, and she um, lost her son in April of 2019, and she's one of my best friends in the world. And although when this happened, and even years after, I always felt very sad for her, and sad that her son, wasn't here to be friends with my son, and that he wasn't going to grow up with her son and my son.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt and feel very sad for her, but I will say that, having gone through this, I have a deeper understanding of her, and I'm, we're able to be a support system for each other and understand each other. So um yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a lot of like support outlets and my close friends,
Yeah.
even friends of mine who are not parents. I feel like, some of them have just really like stepped up to the plate in like amazing ways.
I
And
love that. Yeah.
it's like, even though they're not parents, they can totally um like support me and
Yeah.
understand me, and I really appreciate that. And then my older brother and his husband, they have been like amazing support systems, for me, and
Right.
helping plan the funeral and just be there for me emotionally. When my older brother and I get together, it can be kind of hard for me because he is very emotional about Grant's death. When we're together, he might say something to somebody, and whatever he has to say about it just captures whatever I would have said. And so all I do is I just put down my head and just kind of sob to myself because he's already said what I wanted to say.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my friend Liz in Chicago, she's been an amazing, amazing support system and has really come through for me in a lot of ways. And I'm very thankful. And my neighborhood friends have been amazing for
I
me.
love that you have all this support.
Oh my
That's
God.
amazing. And like you said, the friends that don't, necessarily have children of their own, I think it's like the effort, feeling like they're trying to support and empathize with you. Like
Yes.
that's a big one. I think, I tried grief share once. I think
Oh,
I think when I did it, I think I had done it way too soon. I did it like a month after everything, and everything was so raw, and all I wanted to do was just talk about, my son Noah. And in grief share, like you take turns, and like I think it was hard for me in that moment to connect with other people because I feel like I was so consumed and like filled with, my feelings with my own son that I didn't have the capacity for others. And so I don't think that was the right time for me. But I've had, like, my therapist has mentioned to me about like compassionate friends that is like worldwide.
yes.
Yeah. And like I'm thinking about trying that. I think I'm at a point now, like we're almost about a year out, that I can connect with more people. I know like this podcast has definitely connected me with like a lot of mamas, which I'm thankful for. I've made lots of friends through this, which is great. But I mean, the way you talk about it sounds great to meet other moms that gone through it and make friends that can carry through the journey with you.
And
Because yeah, it's hard to find people.
it is. And grief share, I will say, like, the people that attended, I did not finish. I started Grief Share in September, and I think I went to about half of it. But I did
I went to one.
well, no judgment.
Yeah.
I The people were very nice, and
Good.
I'm still in contact with some of them. But I think that what was really hard for me was that the loss of a child is like, as my therapist would say, this is complicated loss. Like,
Yeah.
this complicated grief. And so you know, it's I'm trying to phrase this in a nice way.
Uh, Hey, it's fine. I mean,
It can be very difficult to um listen to people when you're grieving so heavily about the loss of your child. It can be challenging to listen to people who are grieving about, like, maybe elderly people or
yeah.
people who
An
have.
experience that's not relatable to yours as,
Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
thought to myself, my time is so limited because I have so many things going on that I just thought it was best for me not to complicate my grief by
Mm-hmm.
putting my energy there. And then I started like attending other groups, and then Facebook actually has a lot of great support groups. Do
Oh
you know
yeah,
that?
I think, is that where we met? Because
Uh,
I posted or did you follow my Instagram? Because I posted on I think it was stillbirth infant loss group. Is that,
Yes,
are
yes,
you in that one? Okay, I think we're both in the same one.
yes. I'm in
Yes.
all the groups, but I have heard really good things about compassionate friends.
Yes, I have too.
Yes, and so I'm a member of one of their Facebook groups, or maybe a few of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
There's Compassionate Friends Infant and Toddler Law, so I'm part of that one.
Okay.
And there's for my case, there's Compassionate Friends Sudden Death or something like that.
Okay.
So,
So like more geared towards SIDS,
well,
sudden
I
loss.
I don't think it's geared towards SIDS, but I think it's geared towards suddenly losing a child.
Okay.
Like,
Unexpected and not like a medical condition or yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So part of that one too. I mean, and I think about it sometimes. I mean, every time at this point, I'm a member of all of these Facebook groups about really sad things.
Yeah.
I think to myself, it's been helpful for me in this journey that there are people out there that are going through, like, I wish they weren't, but like they're also going through really terrible things,
Mm-hmm.
and they're figuring out how to celebrate their holidays without their loved ones.
Yeah.
They're figuring out how to go about their day-to-day lives. They're figuring out how to remember their kids that are no longer here. All of these.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at some point, I feel like I'm going to have to maybe either like disable my social media
Yeah.
or maybe have to pull out of these groups. I mean, even thinking about that group that we met in,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the posts are hard. The
Yeah, they
pictures,
are. Mm-hmm.
and
I
it's
I think when you get to a place where I don't want to say like where you're not sad because you're always, gonna feel the sadness, but like I think because you were trying to find light at the end of the tunnel. We're trying to, make a life in our new reality. And so at least for me, when I see those, it can be triggering sometimes, and it can, I feel like, set me back or put me in a really dark place where I am trying to get out of. So I think it depends on the group, and like I've had a friend that says the people in the group really make it too, depending on who's there and who's sharing and the kind of people. It can be like a good group depending on who's there. If that makes sense.
yeah,
you know.
yeah, and yeah, totally. So I guess just, as I go along my journey, I'll have to figure out like what's going to be appropriate for me, especially, in terms of like thinking about a future child or future children. Like,
Yeah.
can I, how can I do that if I'm opening up you know, my Facebook and
And it's just dead
images
babies everywhere. Yeah.
I'm thinking this isn't healthy for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like everything I do, I have to take so many things into consideration, which
Yeah.
I'm sure you do
Yeah,
too.
it's sad. It's crazy how much like your life changes and how everything um kind of goes back to, your child. Like for example, every little thing that like I see or do, I find a way to connect back to my son. Like it all just goes back to him. Not like I'm trying to, but I find a way to connect it. And so it's like I don't know, it's hard. It's something that I feel like, hopefully I hear time makes things better, but things are not linear, and I think as it's I wish there was a handbook. I told my therapist, I was like, I wish there was a handbook where it was cut and dry. Like you do X, Y, and Z and you're healed. Like,
Yep.
because
Yep.
this is so emotionally draining. Like it's tiring.
It is. It is.
Yeah, grief is so much not just emotional, but I feel like it's physical too. Like it's, I don't know. It gets real messy.
It is. It is. I remember when I was leaving the hospital when Grant died, the some worker at the hospital gave me a handout of a few pages long, and it had a, many funeral homes of all different kinds that serve, all different people of all different kinds of religions. And I called one of the funeral directors, and something he said to me really stood out to me, and I it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and this was like when I spoke to him was maybe the day after Grant died. He said to me, he said, one thing I will say after I've worked with parents who have lost a child, you are never going to get over this, but
Mm-mm.
you're just going to learn to live with it. And I thought, like, now here I am, 8 months out, and it's true. Like,
Yeah.
I'm yes, will my life keep on going? Yes, but I I'm never gonna forget this baby I lost. I'm
Mm-mm.
never, you know, I'm never gonna forget what's happened.
Right.
Like, life will keep moving forward, but with, our
With the grief, and I don't think grief will ever really go away. I think there will be a time where we will feel a little bit more joy, I would like to think. um but there's never, like you said, there's not going to be one day where we wake up and we're like, oh, okay, I'm fine that my baby died,
this,
like I'm
or
good.
like, have you ever had like a breakup and at first you're like kind of sad,
Yep.
and then you get to a point where you're like, screw it, they
Yep.
don't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna feel like that.
No, no, of course not. That's your baby, that's your child. It's something that I don't think, not think, I know we're never gonna get over it, like, it's just unfortunately a part of our life now that we're trying to live with. It's such a life altering event, for us to have to piece together and figure out how to navigate life now. I'm like we're almost a year out together, and I don't even think I understand what I'm doing right now, or how I'm just going with emotions like day by day. Like, I don't think I fully like have figured out how to live with it yet. And I don't know how long it's gonna take, and I think it just differs between people, but I don't know. I know by talking to mamas like you and sharing our stories and connecting, it definitely helps, like you said, with all the groups that you've been doing. I know for me, it helps me in my process to feel like I'm doing something.
Yes.
Something, whether it's like for Noah or in his honor or for other lost mamas. Just sitting at home and not doing anything makes me feel like I'm not, I don't want to say like not remembering him, but like I have to do something. I feel this urge and need to have to do something, which is why I created, Dear Lost Mama. But do you feel that way too? Like that you have to keep doing
Yeah.
something to remember him, to honor him?
Yeah, I do, and that's like part of the reason why I did the fundraiser for the
Yeah,
Robert.
which is great because it was such a success, and I'm sure that felt really good to be able to do that in his name.
Did, and yeah, I do feel like I have to like do something for him or talk to other people, and like, even just providing support to people. Like, I am in these support groups that I'm a part of on Facebook. Whenever people mention that they've lost a child sudden, like a infant suddenly, like, I spread awareness about the Roberts program, because I'm thinking, maybe this will help you to get answers for what
Yeah.
happened. Or if not, like, at least your child can be part of the data to
Yeah.
help babies, because I don't want this to happen to other babies, what
Mm-mm.
happened to my baby, and I don't want other families to have to go through
Right.
what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do a little
You share
something.
it. Yeah.
This in the beginning, I had thought to myself, and maybe I'll create some kind of a foundation, and
Mm-hmm.
just, and who knows what's to come in the future.
Right.
But
Yeah.
for now, I don't feel that I have the time or the emotional energy to
Right. Absolutely.
put together that would be as good as like the medical research.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm still pretty like you, I'm still pretty new in this journey, and
Yeah.
there is no handbook for
Mm-mm. Unfortunately.
is going to be. And it's just like I had said before, that there are things that you can like plan for, like, okay, if you're going to a baby shower, that might be like a little bit, you might know, okay,
Right.
that make me feel some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
Or go to a first birthday party, okay, this made me feel some type of way. But then sometimes I feel um just unexpectedly knocked off my feet, which I'm sure you probably do too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
one day I went to go pick up my son from preschool, and I know that there are some babies who I know that some of the preschoolers have baby siblings, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds terrible, but I try my best to avoid standing next to their parents in line.
That's not
Just I just
awful. I
yeah,
understand that. Yeah.
yes, but one of these days recently, I just couldn't avoid not being in line behind this lady. And she had a baby that was the same age my baby would have been. And the
Mm.
baby was holding the baby, and the baby was like looking at me and smiling at me a lot. And it was like a dagger to my heart.
Yeah.
Just felt like, oh my God, like that would be how old my baby would be now. And
Mm-hmm.
about the size my baby would be, and
Yeah.
he would have those like same facial expressions, and I should be standing here holding him too.
Mm-hmm.
um and so it was really hard for me, and I just was there, and I wear sunglasses on my head, but I didn't have any sunglasses, so
Oh
I'm
no.
there to pick up my son, and just the tears are just like
Yeah.
streaming. And I'm sure that his teachers knew my story, so I'm sure they knew, like,
Okay.
they probably could piece together what had happened to me.
Right.
These things just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I
so hard.
It's oh yeah, so hard. I feel like every so often, like down this journey, there'll be something that like hits really hard, and it's like another layer of understanding of what happened. Like, I mean, logically, we know what happened, but that whole acceptance piece, I mean, I still haven't fully accepted what's happened, and accepted that, this is, life now. But every time, something like that happens where grief hits me like unexpectedly, it's like another hit of like another dose of reality. Like, this is your life now. This really did happen to your son. Um, and so, sorry, I have cats. I was like, I think I heard a cat. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it is another
Yeah.
dose of reality. And yeah, it's truly unreal
Yeah.
that this could be your life, especially when you're a loving parent, and
Mm-hmm.
and
And you feel like, you did everything right. You did things
yeah,
by the book. You ate healthy during your pregnancy.
yes.
You washed your hands. You did all the little necessary things. And, why us? And I feel like, when you get into that road of like the unknown, like the questions that we'll never have answers to, that gets hard to have to, that's something we have to live with, and just accept. And like I said, I'm not at that acceptance phase yet, but you know, little by little,
Yeah.
we'll see. But thank you so much for coming on my podcast and sharing your story. I'd love to have you back on another episode. I feel like we could talk for hours. I mean, lots of other lost mamas. I feel like we could talk for hours about everything, and how we're dealing with the grief and life after. But I want to thank you so much for joining our podcast and sharing your story and sharing Grant with us and everyone here. He's such a beautiful baby. I saw his pictures and all the family photos. So thank you so much for sharing him with us.
Selena.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely.
allowing me the opportunity to share. I feel like people a lot of the times, like we kind of talked about this, they don't want to touch on, because
Yeah.
like people don't want to remind you that you
Mm-hmm.
your child, because you sometimes forget that this has happened,
Oh
right?
yeah, right. Like, yeah.
Yeah. But it's like it is important to, like, it's therapeutic to talk about our
It
children, and
is,
it
yeah.
for people to hear our stories and to understand us, and
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm happy to share because I think it's important. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, of course. And I'm glad that, we made more friends, like we're friends and we're connecting now. And other lost mamas can feel like connected and relate to our stories as well. So thank you so much for, having this conversation with me about infant loss and grief and life after and all the topics that just are taboo to talk about, but are necessary in our healing process. So thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for joining us, and join us next Monday for another episode of Dear Lost Mama. And I hope to have Krysten back on for another episode. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krysten. Bye.